Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Bridge again. And we have a new guest. I mean, that isn't much of a surprise. You've got used to that by now, I'm sure. But he's from Uganda. I mean, this is out of the ordinary for us, even with our international appeal. So we've had guests from all around the world. But I will pass over to Cato to introduce our guest a little bit further.
Brilliant. Yep. Hi, everybody. Thank you for doing the intro, Gary. And welcome to David in Uganda. And we are really pleased to have him with us. David, if you'd be kind enough just to do a quick introduction to yourself before we get into any questions and so on. I'm sure our audience will be keen to meet you.
Oh, thank you very much, Gary and Caspar. My name is David Livingstone Eseru. I hail from Uganda, specifically eastern part of Uganda, Teso sub-region. I am in a district called Ngora. And Ngora is a place rich of rocks. We have a lot of rocks, and today that's why I'm even seated on one of them. So I'm great. So grateful to be in this interview today.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure. And it's great. We should say we have had some connection issues. We tried with David before. It seems to be working now, but do bear with us. You know, thankfully he climbed a rock, and we've got some not too bad reception at the minute. Just on that note, David, just explain a little bit like you did to us earlier, what's around there. You mentioned there's a school behind you, I think.
Yeah, there is a school behind me. That is Ngora High School. It is a secondary school. It's one of the oldest secondary schools all over Uganda, I think, because this school was established long time ago. It is one of the missionary schools we have here. During those days of colonialism, and then missionaries coming into Uganda, that's when this school was established. It has passed so many students, and I see so many of them out there doing great work for the country. Of course, some doing the right things and others doing wrong things. When I say wrong and right, it means, you know, we are living in a world where wrong is taken to be right and right is taken to be wrong. So it is something turned upside down. Yeah.
You've said it
That's
right.
Very close to our heart.
Yeah.
David, can you just go back and give us a little bit of background on yourself? Shoshi Hersku, one of our other guests, was kind enough to put you, sort of place you into our world, and you were very kind in responding and saying you'd come and have a conversation with us. Can you give us an indication of how your childhood and obviously your education and then your ideas and beliefs came about? Because we know that you're very much for, or we believe at least you're very much for sort of freedom and a certain way for humanity to thrive. And I'd love to know where that comes from and your background. So if you can tell Gary and I, and obviously by extension our audience, that would be really nice to hear any background that you're willing to touch on.
Well, sometimes I tell people that it's good to be me, but very hard to be me. That's what I tell people. One, I was born to a humble family back in 1992. And I've grown in it as an individual, although my father was able. But I got into a situation where I was raised in a polygamous family. My dad got involved with another woman, and then somehow, somewhere, we fell apart with my dad. So I had to find my way out to study until I got done. So she, in particular, has been one of the instrumental people in my life. She helped me while I was at school, sending me some support, most especially to buy food and also pay rent during that tough time. So when my dad refused to pay my tuition, I never wanted to give up. He wanted me to be a teacher, but I believed there was something that I needed to do that so many people have not done. So I never wanted to go for teaching, like going to school to be a teacher. I wanted to be either a journalist or a lawyer. Why? Because I had a feeling that there are so many things that are not going on right in the world. Right from childhood, I had that conviction. There are so many things that I see that are not right. And I knew if probably I'd done some bit of law, I would have understood the scope of life. I would have understood how things are supposed to be done and what is wrong and what is right. Then I would go ahead to advocate for people's rights, for human rights. Overall, in Uganda, world over, I would really do that. However, doing law wasn't possible, so I had to go for journalism. I started with a certificate in journalism. I did it on my own. I had to get into marketing a school. My school where I was studying, I had to market my school in order to study. I register a student, the registration fee for that student is put into my tuition, and I was able to complete certificate. When it came to time for diploma, I left the village to go to the city, Kampala, purposely to attain my diploma. I wasn't able to get into school immediately, but I had to do other things first, whereby I had to do different things. I have ever been a security guard. I've ever worked in a construction site as a porter, mixing cement. I've ever sold some, here in Uganda, it's called chapati. It's some bit of bread made out of baking flour. So I did that. I did comedy at a certain time, trying to raise money. I've done quite a lot of things. Then I also got involved in teaching a little bit, trying to raise money, but it wasn't enough. Luckily, just because of talent and the rest of the things, I met a friend on Facebook. She's called Esther Newell. So we kept interacting for some time, and she realized I really needed to get back to school. Then she accepted to fund my return to school. I was sent $900, which took me to school. So when I went to school, Esther wasn't able to continue paying my tuition since she also had some other challenges as an individual. So I studied for a full year, three semesters. First semester I cleared to 0. Second, I wasn't able to pay. The third, I wasn't able to pay. So I stayed for some time, studying but not doing exams. So again, the creator, the God that I think pushes me every day, brought the director of the same institute. And he asked me while I was seated waiting to talk to the principal to allow me to enter and do papers. He asked me, Otunu, what are you doing here? Others are doing papers, you're seated here. I was using that name Otunu during the times of comedy. When I used to do comedy, I was using Olaro Tunu. Olaro Tunu is a politician in our country. And I used to mimic him in my comedy. So our director knew me as Otunu. So I told him, it's a long story, Papa. He was like, how long is it? Can we talk about it? I told him, yes, we can. He ushered me into his office. I went, I told him my issue, and then he told me, what can you do? I told him I can do marketing. When I was doing my certificate, I was doing marketing. So I can still do it here, and I study. He told me, your work is to study and do marketing. That's all. And that's how I got into studies and completing my diploma. But a diploma that I was supposed to have done for 2 years, I did it in 5 years. When I resumed the studies, I started afresh from first semester, so that I don't confuse my results. So I started afresh in 2019, July. Going into the next semester after the first COVID-19 came and we were shut down, the whole country was shut down. So I stayed home again for another 2 years, adding on to the first one that was wasted. Then I got back to school in 2021. That was again in July to do my second semester. So I was left with 2 I completed last year in December.
Brilliant.
Congratulations.
So that is,
congratulations.
Thank you.
And wasn't that was incredibly, he had some real foresight and maybe, you know, some compassion as well. The guy who, your principal, who enabled you to continue your studies, that's a fantastic thing. Do you feel a debt of gratitude to him, or do you just think that he should have done something like that?
I'm so grateful to my director. Everywhere I go, I talk about him because he really helped me. Because now I can speak as a professional. I can speak as someone who knows what he's doing. And I'm proud to mention UMCAT School of Journalism and Mass Communication here, because that's where I studied. And the director there is Charles Ogwell. That gentleman has a heart, a very, very good heart. It's not only me whom he has helped others. So I'm really so grateful to God that I was able to meet him. That is it.
Yeah, that's a lovely story. And born out of that, did you always have this sense of sort of activism in you from being a child onwards, or is this something that has blossomed in you for over the last few years?
There is a lot of resistance in my heart on whatever is happening today. Actually, inside me, I have so many feelings mixed up, because one, I am in a situation where I don't believe in anything that is happening today. One, the conspiracy that is happening against humanity, I have realized that it stretches long ago. It dates back to some good years back before I was born, before probably you were also born. It is a political, economic, and religious conspiracy. You find that, like today, I don't know why even the church is accepting that homosexuality is the right thing to do. And yet the same Bible that the churches are using condemns it. So it makes me believe that there is a lot that the country, that the world does not know about religion, economics, and politics. These 3 institutions are the ones that are killing the world totally, being funded by, I think, some big people that have the money. Diseases that we have in the world today, I don't believe that they happen naturally. Inside me, deep inside me, I feel they are not natural causes. They are created. We watch this in movies, and sometimes we feel they are just acted. But these movies, I think, try to help us to understand how things happen. Because you find that in a movie, like there is one called The Contagion. Mm-hmm. It really shows us that there are some evil people who create viruses to infect other people for purposes of social control. So such things really, I'm not at the same line with anything like government, because the governments we are having are the ones that are killing us. No government is for people. All governments are for themselves. Every president comes for himself, not for people. For example, when we look at things, when they talk about inflation, for us here in Uganda, inflation is when people have a lot of money, is when there's a lot of money in circulation in the country. So meaning the local man down there has the money. And when the local man has the money, the government never feels comfortable. What they do is to hike prices of commodities, essential commodities. That is food, water, electricity, and those services and commodities, their prices are hiked to make sure that this person who has got some money must lose the money. And the government should be the only one having the money to give the people down this way. So people die of hunger, people suffer from different diseases and what have you, and the government feels the country is safe when actually they are not safe. So I feel economics, religion, and politics believe there is a creator of this world. I really feel there is. Because if there was none, then I wouldn't be me.
David, can I just ask you quickly? I think Gary might jump in on this point too. We don't have much time left on this first conversation, and it's fascinating to speak with you. Just in terms of money, are you guys able to shift outside of the normal sort of banking paradigm and use things? We know that there is actually a crypto coin and group of coins that come under the name Afrium. So we hear that they can be used. Obviously, people could use Bitcoin or the Stellar Network, XLM or XRP, perhaps. But is that something that is in the public consciousness in your part of Africa or not?
In Africa, I see it much in Ghana, Nigeria, and I think some few other countries. In Uganda, it's not yet, it hasn't caught up in Uganda. Actually, I think it must have been banned in Uganda.
Right.
Here in Uganda, I don't think it is there. Although at a certain time it was coming up, there was a bit of marketing for it, but along the way it disappeared. So, for example, where I am here, it's not there.
How is it with you, David? Like, obviously on this channel, there's a lot of people listening. They'll agree or whatever with some things you've said, and they understand this government sort of pressure. Are you alone, or is there a lot of the public that think like you now? How is it?
There are not so many people who think like I do. There are very few, and the few who are there cannot speak because they fear. You find that somebody really knows the truth when you speak to the person one-on-one. They know the truth, but they cannot speak in public because of the restrictions. Governments want to protect themselves.
Of course, so I think we're finding that with everybody. I mean, everybody that we have personal conversations with pretty much are not far away from probably how Gary and I view the world. And yet you would think that we are in a minority of, we're the other 1%, right? At the other end of the spectrum. But actually, it's not true. You're right. It's really encouraging to hear you say that when you have the one-on-one conversations, people are aware of what's going on, really. But it's just that it's very sad, on the other hand, that they feel they can't say it. What makes, I know we've only got a few minutes left, David, and we'll need to have, if you're happy to do it, another conversation, at least another one. But what makes you, maybe as summing up now, what makes you feel sort of bold and makes you think that we can all make a change in the world to help create a truly better place for anybody. Have you got any specific final thoughts on how this world will change and how we can all help manifest that?
What I know is that with the fact that there are few people who understand what the world is and they fear, what I believe is that one day they will also become bold like me. The most important thing is we who have the guts to speak, let's speak. The rest will follow from us. They will learn from us and they will also join in. Because I know we who are free to speak about it, we have the conviction and there is something unique about us. Even the way we associate with people is quite different. For example, I live in isolation in most cases. When I sit with like 10 people, you find that I am the only person who may find it difficult to associate with other people because of what I believe in and because of what I think is right, what I believe is right. And sometimes you find that they don't believe, they probably know that it is right, but they fear to associate with me because I may end up getting them into trouble.
Well, yeah. David, on that note, you aren't alone. There's people all around the world, and I hope equally we are showing the viewers we already have you're part of the world, and we're bridging this gap here to show everyone.
We are living in a time bomb. The world we are living in is we are in a time bomb. Mm. I have a feeling that one day this world is going to get into, maybe humans are going to rise up one day and they will conquer back the world. They will take it back. Because the oppression is getting worse by day. It's getting worse by day. For example, it is very clear, even the local man down in the village has known that, for example, COVID is not a natural disease. It doesn't exist naturally. It was created in the laboratory and it ended up in people. They use tricks. For example, they put in an animal that one day somebody will eat, then the virus gets into a human being. Then they say, it's because those people eat bats. Those people eat this and this. That's how the virus came to them, but they create it. For example, I watched a video.
I think we're going to have to leave the next bit until our next one, just because we're going to get cut off. So let's leave that as a cliffhanger, literally with a backdrop of a rock, and say for now, David, we'll contact you separately. We'll put any information in the show more that you like, and please, people, do have a look at that and get to know David more, and we'll have you back. But for now, thank you very much from the Quantum Bridge. Really lovely to meet you. Really lovely.
Lovely to meet you too. Thank you very much for the time.
Take care, David.